Good afternoon, ma'am. We're the group of Chelitas, Mariano Marquez, and Guillermo. Today, we're here to report about the topic, enforcement of foreign judgments. Foreign judgments are recognized and are allowed to be enforced in our jurisdiction as a matter of comity with the international community. Judgments issued by foreign courts are given full faith and credit so long as these judgments are not contrary to public policy or are prohibited laws. The main law that governs the enforcement of foreign judgments may be found under Section 48 of Rule 39 of the Rules of Court, which states that the effect of final judgment or final order of a tribunal of a foreign country having jurisdiction to render the judgment or final order is as follows. In case of a judgment or final order upon a specific thing, the judgment or final order is conclusive upon the title to the thing. And in case of a judgment or final order against a person, the judgment or final order is presumptive evidence of a right as between the parties and their successors in interest by subsequent title. The two provisions provide for the general rule with respect to the enforcement of a foreign judgment. Under that Section 48, it is provided that if the judgment is upon a specific thing, the judgment is conclusive upon the title of the thing, while if it is against a person, the judgment is purely presumptive evidence of a right as between the parties or their successors in interest. Foreign judgment has the effect of res judicata in our jurisdiction, meaning that it is inclusive in our jurisdiction and it is as if the decision were rendered by local courts. The general rule that we follow in our jurisdiction is that foreign judgments are entitled to respect and recognition by our courts. The judgment, in order for it to be recognized, must be proven to be genuine, authentic, and in accordance with foreign law. Once these conditions have been proven by the court, it becomes the court's duty to enforce said judgments. Case in point is the case of Fujiki versus Marinai. In this case, petitioner Fujiki is a Japanese national who married respondent Marinai, a Philippine national, on January 23, 2004. However, as the marriage did not sit well with petitioner's parents, the two became separated. Marinai then met another Japanese national, Meikera, and they married on May 15, 2008. However, the marriage was solemnized without the first marriage being dissolved. During the second marriage, Marinai suffered physical abuse from Meikera, and as such, she established her relationship with Fujiki. With the help of Fujiki, Marinai later obtained a judgment from a Japanese court declaring her marriage with Meikera as void on the ground of bigamy. Fujiki then filed a petition for recognition of foreign judgment in the RTC in the Philippines, praying that the court recognize the foreign judgment, annulling the marriage between Marinai and Meikera. However, the RTC dismissed the petition on the ground that only the husband and wife can file the petition for recognition under the rule on declaration of absolute validity of void marriages. There are two issues in point that are discussed by the Supreme Court with respect to conflict of laws. The first issue that was discussed is whether the rule on declaration of absolute validity of void marriages is applicable to a foreign judgment of nullity. The Supreme Court held that no. The rule on declaration of absolute validity of void marriages and annulment of voidable marriages that is the subject of administrative matter number 02-11-10-SE does not apply in a petition for recognition of a foreign judgment relating to the status of a marriage where one of the parties is a citizen of a foreign country. For Philippine courts to recognize a foreign judgment relating to the status of a marriage where one of the parties is a citizen of a foreign country, the petitioner only needs to prove the foreign judgment as a fact under the rules of court. The Supreme Court further held that to hold that the rule on declaration of absolute validity of void marriages and allowance of voidable marriages should be followed would mean that the trial court and the parties should follow all of its provisions, which will result in the trial or the case being litigated anew. Such would defeat the purpose of recognizing foreign judgments, which is to limit repetitive litigation on claims and issues. The second issue that was discussed by the Supreme Court is whether a foreign decree of absolute nullity of marriage is against Philippine public policy. The Supreme Court held that no. It stated that when the Philippines has no divorce law, the Japanese family court judgment is fully consistent with Philippine public policy, as bigamous marriages are declared void from the beginning under Article 35, Paragraph 4 of the Family Code, and is also punishable as a crime under Article 349 of the Revised Penal Code. The Supreme Court held that the recognition of foreign judgments, Philippine courts will only determine two things. The first is whether the foreign judgment is inconsistent with an overriding public policy in the Philippines. And second is whether any alleging party is able to prove an extrinsic ground to repel the foreign judgment. The Supreme Court stated that if there is neither inconsistency with public policy nor adequate proof to repel the judgment, Philippine courts should by default recognize the foreign judgment as part of the Committee of Nations. In this case, there was no proof that there was an extrinsic ground for the trial court to repel the foreign judgment, and as such, the RTC committed an error in dismissing the petition filed by the petitioner to recognize the foreign judgment on the decree of absolute nullity of marriage. And now, my group mate will discuss when foreign judgments may be repelled. I will now give the floor to my group mate, Alan Paul Mariano.
Good afternoon, ma'am, and I am Alan Paul J. Mariano. I will be reporting about the topic when foreign judgment may be repelled or is set aside. So as the previous reporter discussed, under Section 48, so effect of foreign judgments or final orders, in case of specific T, it is a conclusive upon the title of the thing. In case of a final order against a person, it is only a prima facie presumption of the justness of the agreement of the party. So the last paragraph of the provision is that in either case, judgment or final order may be repelled by evidence of want of jurisdiction. So jurisdiction may be jurisdiction over the subject matter or jurisdiction over the person. Want of notice to the party. This is in consonance to the constitutional right to due process. And illusion, fraud, or clear mistake of law or fact. So I will be discussing two cases which will be applicable to the topic that I'm discussing. So the first case is Rower versus Rodriguez. So in this case, Rower is a German national, and he is married to Carmen Rodriguez, who is a Filipino citizen. They were married in Germany, and they ratified their marriage here in the Philippines. So the petitioner in this case filed the private respondent rather filed a decree of a petition for a decree of nullity marriage, which the plaintiff opposed and filed a motion to dismiss. The plaintiff here, then thereafter plaintiff obtained a final decree of nullity of marriage in Germany. So the judge in the case, Judge Salonga, issued an order granting petitioner's motion to dismiss, since there was already a decree of nullity from Germany. Private respondent Rodriguez filed a motion for partial reconsideration with prayer that the case proceed for the sole purpose of determining the issues of custody official hearing, and also the distribution of the properties between petitioner and private respondent. The petitioner actually opposed the motion, since according to the petitioner, there was already a final degree of judgment from Germany. So this outside the jurisdiction of the court here in the Philippines to try the case. So, despite the opposition, respondent judge issued the assault order, partially setting aside the order for the purpose of tackling the issues of property relations, and as well as the spouses, and as well as supporting custody of their children. So the main issue in the case is whether or not the responding judge committed grave abuse of discretion when she partially set aside the order, despite the fact that petitioner has already obtained a divorce decree from the Court of First Instance of Germany. So the ruling in this case is that in this jurisdiction, the rules of court in the Philippines clearly provide that with respect to actions in persona as distinguished from actions in rem, foreign judgment merely constitutes prima facie evidence of the justness of the claim or agreement of the parties, and as such is subject to proof to the contrary. So the court held that foreign degree of valid marriage are recognizable within the jurisdiction of the Philippines, but the legal consequences with regard to the custody and support of the child shall still be determined by the local courts of the Philippines. So, in the case at hand, the local court held that the Philippine court still has jurisdiction over the case for the purpose of trying to determine who has better right or custody over the children, as well as the property relations of the parties. The court further held that this is also in consonance with a principle, a well-known principle that the paramount welfare of the children shall be the determining factor on whether or not on who between the petitioner and the respondent has the ability or has the better right with regard to the custody of the children. Moreover, in the absence of evidence of inability of the respondent to take care of the children, there is no reason that the court will not be able to exercise jurisdiction over the issues of the case at hand. So the next case that I will be discussing is the case of Nagarmul versus Pinolbagan Isabela Sugar Company, which specifically discusses the exception of mistake of law. So in this case, Nagarmul is a foreign company with office in India, and Pinolbagan Isabela Sugar Company is a company here in the Philippines. So Nagarmul agreed to sell around 1,700,000 SDN bags to Pinolbagan. However, Nagarmul wasn't able to meet the shipment for 3 months, July, August, and September, and it was short of 154 bales. So the respondent asked the plaintiff, or the defendant asked the plaintiff here to pay 5% of the value of the bales as a penalty. Thereafter, the government of India increased the duty or increased the export duty of Hessian bags. So Nagarmul asked Pinolbagan to increase the letter of credit around $10,000 to compensate for the increased rate of export duty. So Pinolbagan increased its letter of credit, and Nagarmul sent another letter asking Binalbagan to increase the letter of credit for around $4,000 more, since it will cover the shipment for July, August, and September, which was a defaulted shipment of Nagarmul. Binalbagan refused to increase its letter of credit with regard to the July, August, September shipment, and it received a letter from the Chamber of Commerce in India informing it that Nagarmul applied for arbitration with regard to its claim. Binalbagan sent its position paper to Nagarmul, to the Chamber of Commerce of India for arbitration, stating that it is Nagarmul's fault that the increased taxes for the delayed shipment. It is clearly the fault of Nagarmul or it is the liability of Nagarmul with regard to the shipment which was delayed, and which fault was on Nagarmul's part. So the arbitration or the Chamber of Commerce decided in favor of Nagarmul, and it was affirmed by the High Court of India. So to execute the judgment of the High Court of India, it filed a case before the Court of First Instance of Manila, and the CFI also ruled in favor of Nagarmul, and later on it was appealed to the Court of Appeals. However, according to the Court of Appeals, the issues in the case pertains to purely questions of law. So it elevated the case to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court held that it is actually Binalbagan who is the offended party in this case, since the increased export duty was because of Nagarmul's delayed or defaulted shipment of 154 wheels. So according to the Supreme Court, it has the option to rescind the contract or ask for a specific performance, both with damages. And according to the Supreme Court, the High Court of India failed to apply the fundamental principles of contract. Hence, according to the Supreme Court, if it will sanction the clear mistake of law on the part of the High Court of India, then it would obviously be an injustice to Binalbagan, who is the offended party in this case. So other reasons for refusal by local court to recognize or enforce judgment. The first is the proof of foreign judgment may not have been presented. The foreign judgment may contravene or recognize an established policy in the country, which an example of which is foreign a Filipino citizen filing for decree of nullity of marriage abroad, and the administration of justice in the country where the foreign judgment came from may be shocking people of the So the next topic will be discussed by my groupmate and Leandro Marquez.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Leandro Marquez, and I will discuss today about how local courts cannot be a refuge for failed business dealings. The Philippines, as a member of the international community, accords comity and reciprocity to decisions of foreign tribunals. As such, foreign judgments or convictions that are contrary to the prohibitive laws or public policy of the state are void and cannot be enforced. However, this does not mean that courts here in the Philippines can be used as refuge for failed business dealings nor failed transactions in foreign jurisdictions. In such a case, that the judgment of a foreign court may appropriately be enforced in our jurisdiction as long as the party was given a proper opportunity to be heard by such foreign court. Furthermore, the actions done by the party in such court that are done freely and voluntarily will have the same effect as estoppel in our local courts. A prime example of this is the case of Philippine Aluminum Wheels versus Fasky Enterprises. In this case, Fasky Enterprises, a California corporation, entered into an agreement with Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated and Fratelli Pedrini Cerezo, a Filipino and Italian corporation respectively, for the importation and distribution of wheels, aluminum wheels made by Philippine Aluminum Wheels for the distribution in the United States. As a result of such agreement, a total of 8,594 wheels worth $216,444.30 was shipped by Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated to Fasky, to which Fasky promptly paid. The shipment, however, contained some items that were found to be defective and not in conformity with the stipulated requirements. As a result of such, Fasky sued the Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated for breach of contract and recovery of damages before the United States District Court for the Central District of California. A settlement agreement was entered by the parties, but such agreement was violated by Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated. As such, Fasky then returned to the California court to pursue its claim, and a pretrial was then held, with Elena Bulldozer representing Fasky and Thomas Reddy representing Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated. Again, the parties entered into a settlement agreement, but again, Philippine Aluminum Wheels violated said agreement. As such, the district court then issued a finality of judgment upon the motion of Fasky. And Fasky then filed a petition for enforcement of foreign judgment with the Regional Trial Court of Makati City. The RTC dismissed the suit on the grounds of fraud, collusion, and clear mistake of law and fact, with the reasoning that the foreign judgment ignored the reciprocal obligation of the parties and that the agreement was entered into by Thomas Reddy without the consent of Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated. The Court of Appeals reversed such decision of the Regional Trial Court. The issue in this case is whether the decision of the California court may be enforced in the Philippine courts. The Supreme Court held that the Supreme Court affirmed the decision of the Court of Appeals. They held that a valid judgment rendered by a foreign tribunal may be recognized insofar as the immediate parties in the underlying cause of action are concerned, so long as it is convincingly shown that there has been an opportunity for a full and fair hearing before a court of competent jurisdiction, that regular trial proceedings have been conducted, and that, as such, the foreign judgment is presumed to be valid and binding in the country from which it comes until a contrary showing on the basis of the regularity of proceedings and the giving of due notice in the foreign forum. Again, what governs is Rule 39, specifically Section 48 of the Rules of Court, as it provides that the effect of a judgment or final order of a tribunal of a foreign country having jurisdiction to render the judgment or final order is as follows. That in case of a judgment or a final order against a person, the judgment or final order is presumptive evidence of a right as between the parties and their successors in interest by a subsequent title. In either case, the judgment or final order may be repelled by evidence of a want of jurisdiction, a want of notice to the party, collusion, fraud, or mistake of law or fact. The Supreme Court further cited the case of Surajmul Nagarmul versus Binalbagan Isabela Sugar Company, which ruled that a judgment for a sum of money rendered in a foreign court is presumptive evidence of a right between the parties and their successors in interest by subsequent title. But when the suit for its enforcement is brought in a Philippine court, such judgment may be repelled by evidence of want of jurisdiction, want of notice to the party, collusion, fraud, or clear mistake of law or fact. It also cited the case of Northwest Orient Airlines Incorporated versus the Court of Appeals. In this case, the court said that a party attacking a foreign judgment is tasked with the burden of overcoming its presumptive validity. In this case, Philippine Aluminum Mills claims that its counsel, Mr. Thomas Reddy, has acted without its authority, and that in this jurisdiction, an attorney cannot, without a client's authorization, settle the action or subject matter of the litigation, even when he honestly believes that such settlement will best serve the interest of his client. In this case, the supplemental settlement agreement was signed by the parties, including their counsel, Mr. Thomas Reddy. Philippine Aluminum Wheels failed to mention during the signing of Mr. Reddy's lack of authority, and that it is an accepted rule that when a client, upon becoming aware of the compromise and the judgment thereof, fails to promptly repudiate the action of his attorney, he will not be afterwards heard to complain about it. In this case, Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated failed to properly establish their intent and their actions of terminating the services of Mr. Thomas Reddy, and that after a long amount of time, did they only raise such issue as his authority. In this, the Supreme Court further stated that the Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated cannot, by this petition for review, seek refuge over a business dealing and decision gone awry. Neither do the courts function to relieve a party from the effects of an unwise or unfavorable conduct freely entered into, as has so aptly been explained by the appellate court. The overall picture might indeed appear to be onerous to Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated, but it should bear emphasis that the settlement which has become the basis for the foreign judgment has not been the start of a business venture, but the end of a failed one. And each party naturally has had to negotiate from either position of strength or weakness depending on its own perception of who might have to bear the blame for the failure and the consequence of loss. This case clearly is a clear example of the application of how local courts cannot be a refuge for failed business deals. In this case, the Philippine Aluminum Wheels Incorporated was given ample time to present their case, their evidence, but clearly their failure to do such is binding on the decision of the decision of the foreign judgment, and as such may be enforced in our local courts. As such, the Supreme Court held in favor of FASD and affirmed the decision of the Court of Appeals. To further discuss the proof of enforcement of foreign judgment is my colleague Evan Villar.
Good afternoon. I will be the last reporter, and I will be reporting on proof of foreign law. In our jurisdiction, local courts do not take judicial notice of foreign judgments and laws. Like any other fact, they must be pleaded and proved. The question is, how will we plead a foreign law? A foreign law may be pleaded or proved either by official publication, copy of the public document attested by the officer having the legal custody of the records. This may be deemed on evidence on Section 24 of Rule 132. It states that the record of a public document referred to in paragraph A of Section 19, when admissible for any purpose, may be evidenced by an official publication thereof or by a copy attested by the officer having the legal custody of the record. Furthermore, on Section 25, whenever a copy of a document or record is attested for the purpose of the evidence, the attestation must state in substance that the copy is a correct copy of the original or specific part thereof. A question arises if the foreign law or if the law or the judgment is in the office of a foreign country. On second paragraph of Section 24, if the office in which the record is kept is in a foreign country, the certificate may be made by a secretary of the embassy or legation, consul general, consul, vice consul, or consular princess, or by an officer of any of the foreign service of the Philippines stationed in the foreign country in which the record is kept and authenticated by the seal of his office. Now, in foreign law, or in proof of foreign law topic, the doctrine of processual presumption rather, is an important subject matter. Processual presumption states that if a foreign law involved is not properly pleaded and proved as a fact, our courts will presume that the foreign law is the same as our local or domestic or internal law. Such doctrine was applied in the case of ACT Corporation versus Etchin. In this case, our respondent Etchin is a Filipina who was hired by ACT Corporation in behalf of the Kuwaiti Minister of Public Health, where she was hired to be a medical technologist with a contract period of 2 years with a monthly salary of $1,200. However, after a year, she was terminated by the Kuwaiti Minister of Public Health, alleging that she did not pass all the requirements during her probationary period. So she went home here in the Philippines using her own money, and she decided to file a labor case against ACT Corporation, where she alleged that she was illegally dismissed. The labor arbiter decided in her favor. The labor arbiter ordered the ACT Corporation to pay respondent Etchin the amount of $3,600 as equivalent of her 3 months salary of the expired portion of her contract. On appeal, the Court of Appeals affirmed the decision of the labor arbiter. So the corporation now argues before the Supreme Court that it cannot be, that the corporation should not be liable because Etchin's employment contract specifically stipulates that her employment be governed by the Kuwaiti Civil Service Law. They concluded that it was a patent error for the labor tribunals and the appellate court to apply the labor code as regards her probationary status. So here, in this case, there was an allegation of the failure of the corporation to plead in their answer the specific law or the specific Kuwaiti Civil Service Law, where it provides that the memorandum of agreement entered into between the parties is governed by the Kuwaiti laws. However, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Etchin. It held that it is a Hornbook doctrine principle however, that the party invoking the application of a foreign law has the burden of proving the law under the doctrine of processual presumption, which in this case, petitioners failed to discharge. In this case, what the corporation did was only to attach a certification in their pleading alleging that the translation of the Kuwaiti law was correct. They did not, however, allege or pleaded the specific Kuwaiti law. Further, the Supreme Court held that in international law, the party who wants to have a foreign law applied to a dispute or case has the burden of proving the foreign law. The foreign law is treated as a question of fact to be properly pleaded and proved as the judge or labor arbiter cannot take judicial notice of a foreign law. Lastly, which is the most important part of the decision of the Supreme Court, for failure of the petitioner to prove the pertinent Saudi laws on the matter, the international law doctrine of presumed identity approach or processual presumption comes into play. So again, where the foreign law is not needed or even if needed is not proved, the presumption is that the foreign law is the same as ours. Thus, we apply Philippine labor laws in determining the issues presented before us. So that ends our report.